there, Alicia. So I just had the pleasure of reading through your Essay 3 draft and wanted to take a few minutes here to give you a little bit of feedback. I know you mentioned when you turned it in that it's still in development and this is not as fleshed out as you'd like it to be, but I agree with you. Better to turn in a draft and get some feedback, and I think I can give you some pretty helpful feedback. So you're off to a good start. So let's just kind of walk through the essay and talk about where things are working and what my recommendations would be as you think about revising and polishing and turning in your final draft. I'm also going to include my comments in written form as an attachment so you can open those after you listen to that recording and kind of get a clearer sense of what I'm asking for, or use that as support material. So let's just take a look at your essay here. And I'm going to just start with the introduction. Dear Jake, the goal in everyone's life should be to be happy and flourish to the fullest. I completely understand where you're coming from with this decision. First, we need to start by looking at what a happy life is. What is the good life? As the ethics guru, we like to look back at a few things that we have learned. We'll start by looking at John Stuart Mill, and then we will look at Socrates and see where your decision fits and how I can help you. So all in all, I think this is a pretty great introduction. I think it's an engaging voice. I like that you're really stepping into the situation and assuming that position as the guru and taking Jake's situation seriously. A couple of suggestions I'd make is that here you say, I completely understand where you're coming from with this decision, which is great. You're showing empathy to Jake and getting him to trust you. It might be worth adding another sentence or two that just recaps his position. So Jake, as I understand it, you're currently working at a resort that brings you a lot of fun pleasures, but you are entertaining this idea of going to nursing school, which you think is going to make you happier in the long run. So something where you can just kind of recap for Jake, yes, I understand. Not only do I understand the situation you're in, I can restate it back to you to really show you I'm listening. So that would be a nice rhetorical move there, I think, just to connect with Jake even further. Your thesis map is off to a great start because it really does capture exactly the order that you address things. So you're letting him know, I'm going to talk about Mill, I'm going to talk about Socrates, and I'm going to give you a little bit of advice through these lenses. Now remember that you need to have a third source for this, and you can use anything from chapter 3 or any of those supplemental things that we've been doing, like Rat Park or the Hyde article about the lizards that we did in one of our activities. We had the marshmallow experiment, we have the hedonic treadmill. There's all kinds of other examples. So remember, you need one more. And when you decide on what that one more is going to be, go ahead and add that in here. So you have John Stuart Mill, Socrates, and let's just say you choose the marshmallow experiment, you could say, and Walter Mischel or something like that. So include the author, or you could say, and other modern examples from research or something like that to kind of prep Jake that there's going to be more than just Mill and Socrates. So moving on to your Mill paragraph, my suggestion is going to be to focus more heavily with Mill on the idea of low and high quality pleasures. This first half of your Mill paragraph is not wrong. Mill definitely does have these feelings about freedom to choose and all of that. But for this essay, Eric and I are really looking for you to apply the ideas of high and low quality pleasures. And so I'm going to actually suggest that you just nix that whole section that's highlighted right here. Just cut that right out and start your paragraph by having a clear topic sentence, just like you do for the Socrates one. So you could say something like, in making this decision, Mill would suggest that you compare high and low quality pleasures. Or you could start by saying, Mill would absolutely advise you to go back to nursing school, and he's going to help you figure this out through 2 ideas called high and low quality pleasures. So something that kind of sets the focus up for being about high and low quality pleasures. And so these questions, what brings you the most pleasure? And maybe it's not the most, because remember for Mill, it's not about quantity, it's really about quality. So what brings you the most, what's a word that you could use there? Maybe the most significant pleasure, or the most, I don't know, think about that. It's not really quantity, it's quality. So what brings you could even just say, what brings you the most quality pleasures? And so then you could go ahead and develop those ideas. So let's see, it might be more difficult overall. You will be the happiest. This is true. You're on the right track here. that high quality pleasures are more difficult, but they do tend to lead to a more flourishing life. So here you say working at the resort is a pleasure, something that's okay, not stressful, but it's minimal and you are content. It is a low pleasure, but consistent. So before you get to this, teach Jake about what low quality pleasures are, because when you say here it's a low pleasure, he doesn't know what that means. It's taken us weeks in this class to really tease that out and understand what is Mill talking about. So what is a low quality pleasure? So tell Jake a bit about that. A low quality pleasure is a type of pleasure that what? We access them easily. Maybe you could give him some examples. What are the kinds of things that we access easily? Sunshine, having a margarita, eating a chocolate ice cream cone. These are kinds of low quality pleasures, right? That's what his life is full of right now at the resort. These things come easily. They don't really require any hard work on our part, but their payoff is truly limited, right? And then you want to teach Jake what high quality pleasures are. And so here you say going back to school is going to be the more difficult route, but it's going to give you the most pleasure and make you flourish. So really what you need to tease out here is why. Why does Mill think that the harder thing is sometimes the better thing? Okay, so you're going to have to cash that out a little bit for Jake. So really show your understanding of Mill here. And to help you get there, I'm going to suggest that you study the idea of fecundity. What does it mean when you say something is more fecund? This is really important to Mill. This is not something that Bentham thought about in the exact same way that Mill did. So what does fecundity mean? And how is it that the nursing job in the nursing path is more likely to lead Jake to a more fecund life than if he just stayed at the resort? So I think if you play with those ideas, go back, study those ideas, think about those ideas, imagine how they apply to Jake's situation, that is really what you're going to want to focus on in your Mill paragraph. And then, like I said before, just cut all the stuff about free will and making choices and that kind of thing. Now, when you transition to Socrates, I think this is really strong. You say, now Socrates would say that staying at a job that is only feeding your appetite is not enough to live the best life. Excellent. That is awesome. That is exactly what Socrates would say. And then you go on to give just a beautiful description of Socrates' metaphor for happiness. And your goal in life is to have these in harmony. Awesome. That is an awesome setup for Socrates. You just want to develop it now. So what you want to do is take these three aspects, reason, willpower, and appetite, and you want to help Jake see how they apply to his life. And you've already started doing that a little bit here, but how can you flesh that out some more? And so, for example, you might say to Jake, what is your reason telling you to do? You feel good at the resort, but what is your reason really telling you to do? And how, Jake, you have to explain to him, how are you going to need to use your willpower in order to meet and fulfill the goals of your reason? Okay, because right now, as you suggested in this sentence, Jake is only feeding his appetites. He doesn't have to use his willpower at all. He goes to work and has fun all day. He's small talking. He's living it up. He's serving people drinks. He's in the sun. He's listening to music. He's having fun all the time. But his psyche is out of balance, right? He's not having to use his willpower, and he's kind of suppressing his reason, that voice that's telling him you want something more, right? So how does he get those things back into harmony? So help tease those ideas out a little bit more and really apply them to Jake so he can see how Socrates' metaphor is going to guide him in the right direction. I think your conclusion is solid. It looks really nice. It's really your thesis claim right here. So what you've done in this essay is you've done a delayed thesis where you've kind of led us through your reasoning and then really hit Jake over the head in this last paragraph. So obviously, Jake, you need to go back to school. This is my advice. So I think that works just fine. It works really well. It's a delayed thesis structure, and I think you're doing a great job with it. The only last piece of advice I have is between the Socrates paragraph and this final paragraph, include another example, as I mentioned earlier when we were talking about your thesis. So include another example and flesh that out. It can be anything you want, Rat Park, Mishal, really anything from the chapter that you think is going to help Jake push him even further into seeing why the right choice is to go to nursing school. So Alicia, awesome start. Keep going. You're on the right path. Again, I will attach these notes in here, and just please reach back out to me and or Eric if you have any more questions as you're drafting. I am super excited to see what you do with this revision and look forward to reading your final. Thank you.